Awesome people, inspiring stories, the Living the Dream podcast. Welcome back to the Living the Dream podcast. I'm your host, Matt Scaletti, and today I have an amazing woman. Her name is Sue Strong. She is coming to us from just outside of Toronto, up in Canada. Sue was a district manager of Running Room, overseeing 7 stores. She has taught thousands of people to run by doing clinics at Running Room, coaching for the Arthritis Society and the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society with Team in Training. Sue met a special member at a clinic and has an unbelievably inspiring story to share about that member and about her relationship with the family, and it's incredible. It's called Erica's Wish. We're going to hear all about it. Welcome to the show, Sue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're making me tear up with that intro.
Well,
wow.
I couldn't be more excited. You have a great story. You're helping out an organization that's incredibly inspiring, and we're all going to roll it into one. And I think people are going to get stoked and want to get involved as well. So let's just take it back to, if you want to give us a little bit of your background, if you want to go to your childhood. Clearly you're in the running world, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm obviously just outside Toronto. My childhood, I hated running, was never a runner. I became a runner in my 30s, I'd say, when I started working at Running Room. I wanted to understand why people ran through the snow. I could never understand when you look out the window and people are like trucking through a blizzard. So that, to me, it was fast. I was like, I got to know. So I went to Running Room. I took a clinic, and I was like, this is the best thing ever, because you get the community of people and, you know, the addiction to it. And then probably within 6 months, I was working in the store, like just part-time. And then I became manager, and then I became district manager. And I mean, to this day, I'll say it was definitely one of my favorite jobs. The people were great, and you're working in a running like company. How can you not? All you're doing is talking to people who are setting goals and reaching goals and being excited every day. So yeah, it was great.
That's a great point.
Definitely been a life changer.
I love that. And that's such a good point about being around other people that are setting goals and leveling up. So I got to ask, so you joined this company, Running Room, but when you got the job, did you like running then, or did it take working there to?
No, that's why I took the job, because I was like, how can I do more with this? Because I loved running so much. And I literally only took a learn to run. I mean, I was getting from 0 to 5K. And then I think I skipped the 10K clinic and went to half marathon and then marathon. But yeah, I just was like, I want to be more involved. This is so much fun. I get to see all these people. That's not work. It's fun.
You're right.
So yeah, it was great.
The community of people, and just so everybody knows, Sue and I actually met in the Bahamas at the marathon, which was an insanely awesome event. And the community of people, I think, is what makes running and those marathons so much fun.
Oh yeah.
I'm assuming have you run a few races in your day?
Yeah, I've run probably I think 10 marathons.
Yes.
Half marathons, I have no idea. I did a half Ironman, didn't quite make it to Ironman.
Wow.
Oh, you're training for Ironman. Yeah, I did a half.
Half Ironman. Where was that?
In Ottawa.
Oh, how close is that?
It's like 5 hours away.
Okay.
But honestly, a half Iron was easier than doing a marathon.
Really?
Yeah. Because think about it. If you start your marathon and you're like, you just feel a little off, you have, for you guys, 26 miles, we have 42K of feeling a little off. If you get in the water and you're swimming and you're like, oh, I'm not really having a good swim. Well, guess what? You get to stop and hop on a bike. Like, you have 3 chances of killing this course. So, and because you're using so many different muscles, the recovery is easier.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because you know, strengthening, you don't even use your legs when you're swimming, right? And then you use all legs when you're biking, and then by the time you get to the run, you're already done anyway. It's all mental.
Oh, I like that. It seems like, and so everybody understands, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sue, I think I'm right in this, but 1.2 mile swim, you do 61 miles, 62 miles on the bike?
For the bike?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 90K, so a little less than 60.
Okay, and then you still have to run a half marathon.
And then a half marathon. Yeah.
That's so cool that you did that. That makes me so happy. So
I remember running through the finish line going, I'm not doing a full. I'm not doing it. And it wasn't even, I wasn't in pain. Like I loved it. It's the commitment of training. It's hard. It's a lot.
I bet you did a lot for the half. I'm sure that was no joke.
It was a lot, yeah. It was fun. It was fun.
So give us a little bit. You're at Running Room for a handful of years or more, and you're doing some of these clinics. You took clinics, and then you became a coach and gave clinics. Just give us an idea of what that entailed. What is a clinic, and how were you coaching others?
So Running Room has, which is a brilliant way they do it. When you can shop in the store, they have everything you need, or they would have clinics, and the clinics were learn to run, a 5K, a 10K, half marathon, marathon. So they need instructors for all the clinics. So every week, they're usually about 10 weeks long, and every week, you'd learn something. The first week would be an introduction. The second week, you'd learn how to wear the proper shoe, and then there'd be a training plan, but you'd meet with your group 3 times a week and follow the training plan, obviously. So you become a big, happy family of, runners reaching different goals and stuff. So then, so I taught all the way through to marathon, a lot of times. And then I actually got my personal training certificate and started coaching people outside of my house, basically, like in their own houses. And then Arthritis Society, oddly enough, that was my second marathon. My mother always wanted to go to Ireland, and we were at a show, and there's this big booth for the Arthritis Society. Go to Ireland, or come to Ireland. And my mom's like, I want to go to Ireland. You run the marathon, I'll raise the money. So you had to raise like $5,000 or something. I said, oh, all right, I'll train and you raise the money. So she raised $100. I raised $7,000 and trained for the marathon.
But who's counting?
But who cares? I went to Ireland.
That's a great story. And your mom went too?
Oh yeah. Oh, it was fun.
I'm sure it was.
If you can ever do that marathon, that's a fun marathon.
Oh, I bet it is. Oh, that's cool.
It was fun.
So did you say that was your first marathon?
It was my second one. I did Mississauga, where I live, was my very first one. And then Ireland was basically right after it.
Oh, that's such a great story.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to connect this with so I can visualize exactly what was happening. This Running Room, it sounds like it's similar to like a Foot Locker or Dick's Sporting Goods that we have in the United States. Okay.
Yeah.
And people come in 3 days a week, and it's a group of, 5, 10, 25, whatever the number is.
Oh my God, we used to have up to 100 people in clinics.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
You have 100
I had one clinic that had 80 people in it.
Oh my, that's great. That means you're doing something right.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So some of them were going from couch to 5K. Some were trying to level up to a half marathon or full marathon.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from working at Running Room, or more than one thing?
One, don't ever judge people by how they look.
Ooh, I like it.
And you learn that in races. I mean, you've probably seen it. There could be somebody older, somebody younger, somebody bigger, somebody smaller. I can't tell you how many times I've been passed. So you can never, especially with running, you can never say, oh, they won't be good, or they won't finish, or never, because guess what? You'll probably be way behind them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that, and you know what? You should always, like, anybody that walks through the door and says, I need shoes I want to start this, like, kudos to you. Anybody I see running, even now, like, it's been super hot, I'm just like, good for you. Like, I'm sitting in my car, you're running on the street in 90-degree weather. Like, so I would say that was the biggest thing I learned. Like, just everybody is out there doing something for themselves, for their reasons, and nobody should ever judge people because you don't know. They could have been super athletes. Like, you don't know the backstory. Like, I never ran a day in my life before I worked there.
I love that. I love the fact that you didn't start running until you're 30 and now you love it. I mean, that's such a cool story.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific stories about, like you said, these people come in and they're looking for shoes. Maybe it's their first event, or maybe they're just trying to run half a mile. Do you remember any specific stories of individuals that you were able to help in sort of a success story that came out of it?
He's actually my neighbor.
Wow.
I didn't know that then, but this man came in, I was teaching, I think it was a learn to run. And he came in and he had these running shoes on that had paint all over them. Like he had been painting his house, or he worked with, like, was a painter or something. And they were like, I mean, they could have been Converse, for crying out loud. And he walked in and he sat down, and I was like, you're going to get shin splints. And you, like, I'm telling you, by tomorrow, you're going to be in pain. Oh, no, I'm fine. Okay. Sure enough, the next week, Sue, I think I might need some shoes. I'm like, you think? So we set him up. We actually did a big contest for some shoes, and he ended up winning it. And I'm like, you got your shoes. So we got him in a good pair of shoes and everything. I can't tell you how many times he's done Boston. And that was when he was like learning how to run. And I always, when I see him, if we're walking in the neighborhood and I see him, I go, do you remember those shoes with the paint on them? And he was like, yeah. And he is fast. Wow. See, right there, I would have been like, who is this clown in the paint shoes? You can't, but you can't.
That's right.
I've never been to Boston. I mean, I've got to be 80 before I qualify.
He's won the Boston Marathon many years.
Oh, multiple times.
Oh my goodness. And for those that don't know, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that Boston is one of the only marathons where you need to be extremely fast in order to qualify and have a shot at it, right?
Yeah.
That's a great story.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, that is, so he's basically obsessed with running now.
Oh yeah. He's got his own running groups that he meets up with now, and he always tells me, Sue, you got to come out. And I'm like, yeah. No. They're too fast.
Yeah,
I'm like,
flying.
Not at my speed.
I need to ask you, because I'm so curious. You've run a ton of marathons, a ton of races. You've coached a lot of people and seen them succeed. Do you get more joy out of when Sue succeeds, or do you get more joy when you can help somebody else reach their goal?
Somebody else.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, if I set my mind to something, it's going to happen. Whether it happens great or bad or whatever, I'm like, if my head gets there, then everybody back away. This is my focus. But when I can see like other people, like I just had a girl when I brought Erica's Wish up. She's like, do you remember you promised you'd be in my first 5K with me and you got me across the finish? Like, those stories make me cry.
I'm sure.
And I'm like, oh, people always say that, like, you'll hear that. Oh, it's because of Sue. And I'm like, oh, my heart.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, all I did was run beside you.
That's all they needed, right?
Yeah.
You know what? You hit on a point, and I need to go deeper, because you said when you set your mind to something, it's happening. End of story. I love that, because I think that's a huge piece of being successful. I'm trying to think of how I want to ask this question. If you set your mind to something and you have setbacks, which I'm sure you have, I've had, everybody listening has had, how do you continue to say no? Like, I'm sticking with it no matter what happens, and you just keep plowing forward?
Well, I think you have to look at what is the end goal. Like, I can give you a really good example.
Yeah.
At one of the races I put on, which we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers were good. Everything was going good. Everything was great. And we had people coming through the finish line and things were going great. And then all of a sudden everybody started running over to this area. And I was like, what is going on? We had a runner that went down, like heart stopped, went down. And I literally stood there and was like, what is happening? Yeah. Luckily, super close to the finish line. I had proper paramedics. They happened to have a defibrillator. Erica's mom's a nurse. She was right on it. But for me, in that moment, I was like, I'm never doing this again. This is insane. Like everything was flashing across, like, am I going to get sued? What's going to happen? Even though I was fully insured, I had the medics, everything was fine. He's well, he's healthy, everything's good now. But in that moment, you're like, never again. But that was 2014. I put a totally separate race on the same year. So, wow. So I think when you, like, if you have a setback, I almost think it makes you stronger.
I like that. As long as you keep going, right?
Yeah. You just figure out, I am definitely the person, if there's a setback, that I'm the first one to be like, oh my God, and freak out. Then I'll like step back and be like, okay, how do I fix it? What do I have to do? And then for that, it was like, if you fall off the bike, get back on it. So
I love that. And I love that you're honest and say, maybe you freak out, but it seems to me, knowing you for a little while, that maybe you freak out for 12 minutes, instead of 3 weeks, and you just compose, boom, and then you go for it. I think that's a very powerful.
I think I always come back to too, like, how did I die? Did somebody die? Is life changing completely because of whatever has happened? If the answer is no, then move on. Like, especially nowadays with everything, life is so short. Like, that's just the way it is. You got to move on.
I love that. I seriously think that's so great. I just wrote that down. If someone's dying, no, nobody's dying. Then why dwell on whatever it is? I think that's
exactly
great. That's a powerful takeaway. Okay, so you were working at Running Room and you're doing one of the clinics, and this story, I can't wait to get into this. And do you want to just tell us what happens when you meet a certain individual?
Absolutely. So I was teaching a Learn to Run, which I will say Learn to Run is, if anybody's ever going to teach a clinic, that is the best clinic you can ever teach, because you're taking somebody from 0 to like 5,000. So talk about seeing people reach their goals and feel good that you help them. Half marathon to marathon, they know what they're doing. It's just distance they got to learn. But 0 to 5 is like, you're like a superstar in everybody's mind, even though all you're doing is running beside them, right? So I'm in the clinic, and I call her my little Smurf now, because she's about 5 feet tall. Not that I'm tall. And she was, she was always the girl that everything was planned. It was set out. She knew the entire schedule. It was a 10-week program. And if we were in week 1, she had already practiced up to the end of week 2 before we got to week 2, just to make sure that she didn't look like a fool and she could do it. And I kept saying to her, like, this is why we have practice runs during the week, so that you can practice. You don't have to jump ahead. But her attitude, I just love seeing her, because she had this determination on her face. Like, she was just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So every week, sure enough, and she ended up going all the way to half marathon in my clinics. And she drove to a different store once because I was teaching, to go to continue on with me.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. So so we became friends, and she actually helped me when I trained for the half Ironman. She would watch my kids, and I'd go swim in a lake, and she'd like play with them while I swam for an hour. So it was good. So we became really good friends.
I love that. And so what happened as this friendship was blossoming?
So as it was blossoming, her daughter, Erica, who is a couple of years older than my kids, she used to come to the lake. They'd all hang out together while I was training for half iron. And then she was a gymnast, and sights set on the Olympics, 12 years old, superstar. I mean, she was doing like, literally, I remember looking up from the water and I just see her like doing backflips along the beach. And
Oh my goodness.
like, it was just like, she was Olympic material.
Yeah.
So she went into a practice one day at 12 years old and her femur snapped in half, which for anybody that doesn't know, that is the biggest bone in your body. It should never break.
Yeah.
And it was a practice. It wasn't even a hard workout. She was warming up and it just broke in half. Her coach knew right away and said, like, get her to the hospital. This is bad. Like, this is not a break. Something is wrong, which was impressive that her coach knew that.
Yeah.
She went to the hospital. They transported her to Sick Kids, which is Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto, which is world renowned. Anybody who's ever had a sick child probably has heard of it. They determined that she had osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. So she had a large tumor in the middle of her femur. That is the reason her leg snapped.
Wow.
So it was a tough go for a 12-year-old who was planning on being in the Olympics. Her mother, which it's funny how people react, phoned me, and she kept like phoning me, and she only wanted me at the hospital for some reason. And I don't know if it's because I wasn't super close to the rest of the family, or because I was more of an outsider, or she just felt like she could talk to me and maybe she didn't want relatives involved. But I went down to the hospital and she told me the dreaded news that Erica had this cancer and the way to fix it was to amputate her leg. She also had 4 spots on her lungs, so it was bad. But so I just kept going down to the hospital. She just kept asking me to come down, and Erica's first or second chemo treatment, I'll never forget. She was in the room and I went in to see her, and she was so sick. She was just throwing up, and screaming in pain. This is a girl that never complains about anything in the world. And all I could think of was, you're 12 years old. What are you doing for your 13th birthday? And she was like, what? And I'm like, what are you doing for your 13th birthday? She's like, I don't have birthday parties. And I said, well, we're going to have a huge birthday party for you. You're going to get through this. And then I'm going to throw you the biggest party there is. And right there, she said, I want it to be about awareness of kids with cancer. Nobody realizes kids get cancer, which is true. There's not a lot of awareness. And I said, all right, I think within 5 seconds, we said, it's going to be called Erica's Wish. It's going to be a 5-year program. And the words are going to be believe, courage, wisdom, determination, and strength. It was like 5 seconds.
Boom, boom,
and I,
boom.
Just like that. And then I went to a good friend of mine, Chris from Running Room. He runs events, and told him the story. And he was like, let's do it. That's it. So within a couple hours, it was like the planning had started. We got Running Room on board. They were all for it. I remember talking to the owner directly about the story, and he had tears in his eyes. He's like, whatever you need, let's just do it.
This story, the whole thing is just incredible. Part of it that just, puts a smile on my face is it seems like whenever a tragedy happens or something bad happens, people rally around that instead of, saying,
running.
Let her go. And this is a perfect example. These people are like, they just want to help. I can feel it in your voice when you're talking about Erica. And so
Yeah.
how is Erica doing? She's 12 years old. She gets this horrible news. She got to get her leg amputated. I'm envisioning her, once you're talking about Erica's Wish, she's kind of perking up more because there's, maybe there's a purpose for all this happening. Is that fair to say?
That's funny you say that, because she got interviewed so many times and people would say, what makes you smile or what makes you happy? And she would always say Erica's Wish.
Oh.
So I would go to the hospital. So she had 67 rounds of chemo.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was a full year of the worst chemo you could possibly get. She had trials and everything because this child was not supposed to survive. Like, this was bad. So I went to the hospital 3 times a week and just kept planning the race with her. I'm like, what do you want at the finish line? Well, I want ice cream. It's my birthday. Well, your birthday's in August. You can't have ice cream. So I'm like, we're going to have cupcakes. So every year I'd bring 600 cupcakes in. And then people used to, the little kids were cute. They'd say, Mom, sign me up for the cupcake run. I'm like, it's called Erica's Wish, but it's okay. We'll be the cupcakes.
That's fine, right? Whatever it takes to get them there.
Yeah. But every week I'd just go there and I'd be like, okay, Erica, sit up. We got a plan. Like, what do you want to do with this? And what color shirts? And what should we do with the medals? Which we never did medals. We did necklaces. Like, we did pendants, like on the rope kind of style. And every year would have the word on it. And it would be, so people, it was different that way too. It wasn't, you didn't get the big medal. You'd get something. And I would find people on the streets wearing them after the fact. I'd just be like,
oh, you'd have
made
to,
that.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. You'd have to melt. Oh, that would be incredible feeling. Yeah. So year one is she going through chemo as the first one is being run, or this is after, or she was?
No, she was, so year one, her leg was already amputated. She was still going through treatments. She was sick as a dog. I was at race kit pickup, which obviously the day before, and her mother called and said, she's not going to make it. And I'm like, she's not going to make it where? And she said, she's not making it through the night. Like, this is it. And I remember I burst into tears, and I'm in the middle of the store. There's 20 people lined up getting their kits. I just like handed off my stuff, ran outside, and I told her, this is not going to be a memorial run. I don't care what you do. You make sure she makes it through the night.
Oh my goodness.
So Erica, being Erica, she's very determined. She made it through the night. She got up the next morning and was getting dressed, getting ready to go. And the nurses said, yeah, honey, you can't go. You're too sick. And she said, there's 550 people waiting for me at a park to celebrate my birthday. I'm going.
Yes, go Erica.
So they gave her a 4-hour pass, and I literally was at the start finish line. Everything was set up. There was almost 600 people there. I had, the police and everybody I'm supposed to have, and I was like terrified that I was going to have to say, like, there's no Erica, there's no race, and it's the first year. I'm like, people are going to get mad. Like, what is going to happen? And then all of a sudden I see them pull up, and she was in a wheelchair. She did not look good at all, but she was just like, she came and she's like, I'm not missing my party. And I was like,
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, it sounds like she was at the point where any day could have been it.
Yeah. But it's her strength was amazing. I mean, it is amazing. She never once said, woe is me. I never, ever heard her complain, like, why is this? Yeah, never once did she ever complain. She never, ever was like, why is this happening to me? I don't deserve this. She was always like, what do I have to do next? Okay, what needs to be done? Let's get it done. And how do I get better? And she was like, I mean, the day after her amputation, she was sitting up in a chair, and they have to do lung exercises and breathe into this tube, I guess, because it affects everything. And she was like, give me the machine again. And they said, no, you've already done enough. and I was like, well, what is she doing? And then I learned that for somebody who has had an amputation, to actually sit up in a chair usually takes weeks. This was the very next day. And she was already on this lung thing that a lot of people, they're trying to figure out what's just happened to their body. They're not going to rehab right now. But she was sitting there going, bring it back. Let's get it done. I want to do it again.
Oh my goodness. This is, first off, the story is it's amazing, but there's so many takeaways inside of what Erica's doing at such a young age. And I love the one, which is, instead of, any of us, I don't care what age you are, could say, why me? Why is this happening? Yeah. We could all say it, but instead of that, why not focus on what's next? Okay, this happened. Now, how am I going to react to it so I can keep growing and getting better? That's powerful. At 12 years old, this is just amazing.
And
So,
I wonder if it's because she was so young, because she wasn't thinking of what I'm not going to be able to do or what I'm missing out on now, because she was so young, she hadn't experienced things yet. So she was just like, okay, well, what do I have to do next? Like, I need to live, like, I need to go on and with my life. I think that's part of it, because you and I would be like, oh my God, like, I can't do this now and I can't do that now. But she never ever was like that. She never ever did that.
I think that's such a powerful takeaway. So you're successful, clearly wildly successful in the first year. What happens after that in the future? Does the event keep rolling along, or what happens?
Oh yeah, every year. I mean, the first year we had so many people. We had a ton of people that registered just because they met her. They didn't even come to the race. They just wanted to support it. The first year we gave all the money to the family because the costs were so high. You know, obviously one of them has to lose their job and go on full-time care. Parking at Sick Kids is not cheap. The numerous rounds of Starbucks. So I was like, let's help with your bills. So I gave them the money. And the second year, Erica went into remission. And Erica came to me and said, I don't want the race to be called Erica's Wish, and I don't want any money. And it needs to be about the other kids that have cancer. And I said, okay, we can do everything except change the race name, because you are the inspiration.
Yeah.
I'm like, we can't take away the inspiration. That's why we're doing this. So she had a blanket in the hospital that she was sick on. She snuggled with. She covered her leg after it was amputated. This blanket never left her. So I said, let's make blankets for the other kids, like how your blanket comforted you. So we went on that journey. We picked a blanket finally. We went through 10, 15 blankets, you know, washing them, pulling them, everything, you know, somebody in a hospital could possibly do to it. And finally came up with a blanket that's perfect, that, you know, will always stay nice and soft and snuggly. And embroidered Erica's Wish into it. And now every child at Sick Kids, when they get admitted to oncology, gets that blanket.
That is
and her story.
That's right, which might be probably just as powerful. And that blanket. So this has been going on since 2010, 11?
The blanket started in 2010.
And are the blankets still going?
They go every month. We give between 20 and 30. Oddly enough, Christmas and summer is usually slower. So if they say to me, no, we don't need a shipment this month, I do the happy dance. It's the only time you can be happy, when somebody doesn't want your product, because that means kids weren't admitted. They don't need them.
Yeah, that's very true. I love that.
Anytime, and it's weirdly enough Christmas, like around Christmas and like right now. So they had enough blankets at the start of COVID. They need a shipment probably now, but it might be slower as it has been in the past 10 years. But with COVID right now, I mean, we have to wait a little bit to get the blankets in there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're not letting anybody in the hospitals. But I've kept in touch with them, and they said, yeah, absolutely. As soon as we can let you back, you're coming back. So hopefully they still have enough. I know they had a good stock when we started, so hopefully they still have enough.
That's such a great idea. And really, these are miracles to me. I mean, you're a miracle. Erica is a miracle. Everybody that helps and gives back and joins in, these are many miracles happening all over the place. And it's just a great, great story. So is anything going on this year with Erica's Wish? Will it keep rolling along given COVID and everything?
Yeah. So Erica's Wish ended in 2014. We actually went to do one in 2015, but Erica was training for the Rio Olympics, Paralympics, for paracanoe.
Tell everyone,
of course she was.
Just we got to stay here because this is incredible. Tell everyone what paracanoeing is, and give us a little bit of how she's done in that world. This is just, it blows you away.
Yeah, so I guess she had gone to a canoe club, or somebody had spotted her and they said, okay, this girl's strong. Remember, she was a gymnast, so her upper body strength was ridiculous already. And that is partly why she could sit up so quick after the amputation, and why she could rebuild her strength and everything. So she started training, and sure enough, she was like, okay, well, I'll do nationals. Okay, well, I'll go to, I forget where she went for worlds, somewhere across the world. And then she qualified for the Olympics. She went in the Olympics, and she came in 7th in the world. And she was like on the end one. So it was even harder because she was, the middle doesn't have all the waves that are coming out. So, and she was just like, yeah, I could have done better. But it was
That's
like,
the
you're
mindset right there.
7th in the world. But yeah, so we stopped the race because of that, because every year Erica we had a 1K for kids, and she would be there. She would start the race, and she would be the last one that came through. Everybody would run it. And, the first year she was in a wheelchair. The second year she was on crutches. The third year she had a prosthetic. So everybody would come back and see, oh, how's Erica this year? And it was good for kids. They saw, what, here's somebody who was super sick, and look at how she's overcome everything. So we had a lot of families, because the 1K they could run with their kids, and then the 5K was right after it. So 2015, she was in heavy training, and it came down to, we don't know if we can commit to a date for the race. Mm-hmm. And I said, then I can't do the race. I can't go stand there and be all rah without the inspiration being there. Yeah. She's always been there. I'm like, it won't be the same. So we'll stop the race, but we'll keep the blankets going.
That's a big part of it. Yeah, blankets.
Yeah, so we've had donations over the years for the blankets, which has been great. We've kept it going the past 6 years. And this year I was like, you know what? It's been 10 years. Like, that is monumental. And some people may not even know that we're still doing it. And so I actually said, I put a post out, and I was like, it's been 10 years. And one of my old managers at Running Room said, do a virtual race to celebrate. Because I said, how should I celebrate? And I was like, let's do a virtual race. So I asked a few people, and everybody, but Chris, the race director that put it on with me, he was like, yeah, do it. It's great. So we're doing a virtual race. It's on Erica's birthday, like it was. Like a lot of virtual races are doing, here's 2 months, run whenever you can. And I said, no, here's when it opens. So it opened July 10th, which was 10 years for the blankets. Mm. The race is on August 16th, which is Erica's birthday. It's a Sunday, which was the exact same setup the very first year. It was a Sunday, August 16th. So it's a 1K for little kids, or anybody that just doesn't want to do 5, and a 5K again. And it's a celebration to celebrate, like, hey, we've done 10 years of comforting kids, and let's all celebrate.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so powerful. And since it's virtual, anybody can sign up anywhere in the world, right?
Anywhere. Yeah. And then after August 16th, I just mailed the medals out to everybody. And I was looking at doing, getting a big race kit and all that. And I thought, you know what? It's 10 years of the blanket. I just want a nice medal that says comforting kids for 10 years. And that's what it said, because our slogan is comforting kids with cancer, believe in a better tomorrow. So the medal says comforting kids for 10 years.
I love that. That's a good idea. And if people want to sign up for the 5K or the 1K, you have until, is it August 14th?
Yeah, August 14th.
How do people sign up and or read more about it?
You go to www.ericaswish.com.
Oh, that's great. I'll link that in the
easy
notes as well. Yeah, you keep it simple. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I made a separate tab for the virtual run too. So you can literally link, actually, as soon as you go in there, a pop-up will come up saying join the virtual run. But her whole story's there, and there's pictures from past races. And Instagram, we're Erica's Wish. Facebook, we're on there. Twitter, we're on there. So you can find us.
That's great. Well, and you should know, because you have to tell this story, because before we recorded, we were talking offline. Tell this story, because for those that don't know, Sue is in the social media marketing world. She helps businesses market themselves across a ton of social media platforms. Tell the story of the transition from Running Room to what you currently do, because it ties together. It's just perfect. It's amazing.
Yeah. So running room, that's why I always say running changed my life, because it did.
Mm-hmm.
I started running. Part of being a district manager for running room, you have to work at all the races. So running room puts on a ton of their own races, and you set it up and you do the race kits and, start to finish kind of thing. So I learned everything I needed to know to put on a race. Of course, I had Chris, the events guy, who was on board. He set up all the course logistics. That is something I did not want to touch, obviously. But so we did all that. And then, we did the first year of the race, and I thought, that's great. Like, running room promoted everything for me in the stores. And I'm like, there's got to be more marketing. Like, how do I keep growing it? This is 10 years ago when people weren't so savvy. And I'm like, oh, social media. I was the person that was like, do not put me on Facebook. That was Facebook then. I want nothing to do with any of this nonsense. So then I was like, oh, I'm going to have to go on Facebook, aren't I? So I went on, and then I started testing. I made an Erica's Wish page, and I started testing posts, and I was like, wow, if you post it this way, you'll get this reaction. And if you do this, you'll get this. So then it just became like a game to me. I was like, this is crazy. And I would show people, watch, if I post this, what happens in 5 minutes? And it was like earth shattering. So then after that, I realized there's so many businesses. I started looking at businesses around me, and I'm like, these people have nothing out there. I'm like, I wasn't 20, dealing with me or dealing with, somebody who's 20 obviously was different. And a lot of people weren't open to social media. But the way I would explain it to them, they could relate more with me. And I wasn't an agency. I mean, there was a lot of people that had huge agencies working for them, paying triple what they pay me. And, you phone them, you might get a phone call 8 hours later. If you phone me, I pick my phone up all day. So the personal touch, I think, was good. So then I started with a couple companies, and then word of mouth got around. So I've had companies come and go throughout the years as they needed me. If they didn't need me, I've stayed friends with everybody, but it's been great. I've worked in so many different industries, learned so many different businesses. I love it. But everything stems back from the day I laced up shoes and put them on my feet. I mean, meeting you, I would have never met you, but I'm doing Marathon Bahamas stuff.
You're right. So, I mean, that's so true. Well, I think part of it has to be that you're also open-minded enough to, when something happens for you, to see where it's going to lead, instead of thinking, closed-minded and I'm not going to change my whole career just because of that. But I mean, you took a big, and it ended up being a great risk by taking that leap, right?
Oh yeah. And when I did it, I literally was like, overnight was like, okay, I'm done with this. And I remember I woke up the next day and I was like, what have you done? But now I'm like, wow, 10 years went by? Holy, that's crazy.
You've been in the social media world full time for 10 years.
Yeah.
This is just the way, now that everyone has listened or watched this, the way that your whole life, at least career-wise, has gone from not being a runner, then starting to run and getting this job, then loving the job, then meeting Erica's mom, and taking the leap of your career and going into social media. Like, this whole thing is just, how it's all come together blows my freaking mind.
It's crazy.
I mean,
and I always say that. I'm like, everything is attributed to the first day that I said, why are those people running in the snow? It all goes back to that. Why? I don't understand.
Has Sue run in the snow since that day?
Oh yeah. There's many a days where you come home with the frosty eyelashes and minor bits of frostbite on your face. Yeah, I've had those days. Actually, honestly, running in the snow, I love it.
I do too.
It's so much fun, especially if it's like lightly snowing. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to ask you, since you are an entrepreneur, and I've had a few entrepreneurs on the podcast, do you have any habits that you'd like to share? Because every day is probably different and you are in full control. You get to decide, do I wake up at 6, 7, 8 a.m.? Do I sleep in? What do I do before lunch? How do you have any habits that people can take away and potentially use in their own life, given your experience as an entrepreneur?
I think, for me anyway, how you wake up sets your whole day. So like you do your 5 a.m. dance party, which is awesome, and your 7:15 workout. I'm pretty much the same. Like I get up usually around 5:30 and I do like a half hour workout, but it's more of like a all over body, just get moving kind of thing. Drink some lemon water because you're supposed to do that first in the
That's
day.
right. Yeah.
And then the beautiful coffee. And then I go for a walk, usually like a half hour walk or something, come back, and then I'll either eat or I might go for a run or do something and then start my day. Because I used to always get up, grab my phone. I wouldn't even have one eye open and I'd be like, oh, what's going on? Like, what have I missed? Like, what did you miss? You went to bed at midnight and it's 5 a.m. Like you have not missed anything. So I think a lot of us are too programmed to jump up and go straight to work. Whereas you need to like jump up, take an hour, take a half an hour, take 20 minutes, read something. Like I know you're big into reading right now. Like read something or learn. Oh, Spanish. I started taking Spanish lessons during COVID.
You did?
I did.
Wow.
So I do, in between when I'm drinking my coffee, I do 15 minutes of Spanish every morning.
This is
that's
great.
that's my book.
But you've been doing that for a few months now?
Yeah, well, so it tells you your streak. I think I'm on day 49 right now.
Wow. And
yeah, so
you starting to...
It's coming. It's coming. It's fun because I go with my mom to Mexico a lot. So I'm like, what can I do? Like now's a good time to learn Spanish. So it's like, get up, work out, lemon water, coffee in Spanish, go for a walk.
I love this. This is so... I didn't know any of this stuff. Oh, this is great. And I honestly, I love how you're saying you're trying to learn an entire new language to you. And it's not like you're taking 3 hours a day. I mean, you said it yourself, 15, 20 minutes a day.
Oh, yeah.
And you're learning over the course of months. I think that's so powerful. Yeah. And
I mean, it might take me 2 years to be able to do it, but I mean, I think the 15 minutes is, you like to read for 15 minutes or people like to journal for 15 or meditate or whatever. So Spanish is my reading.
I think that is inspiring and I'm fascinated by that. And I can't wait to see a year from now if hopefully
if I can speak.
Yeah, if you can get it. Yeah. Where currently are you? Can you speak it, or are you more like listening it and trying to understand what's going on, or like how are you coming along?
Yeah, now I'm in the, like they'll put a sentence out there and then I have to say what it is in English, or they'll say it in English and say, okay, write it in Spanish. So it's more like I'm just learning all the basic words and trying to put the full sentences together. But it's very entertaining listening to me out loud because I do not sound Spanish at all.
I love that you're doing that. I think that is so cool. Okay, so at the end of all of the podcast episodes, I have to ask just a few questions because I think they're fun and they're deep, and I think it'll help everybody get to know you a little bit more as well. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. If you can, just because I think it's more challenging, see if you can answer these in like 1 or 2 sentences max.
Okay.
How does Sue want to be remembered? How do you want to
as a compassionate, giving person?
I love it. I think I've asked that question a lot, and I think when they're simple like that, concise, that's powerful.
I always say Erica's wish will make me go to heaven because I did something good. That's my do good in life.
Well, you're doing great, and I think that's awesome. What are you most thankful for?
Right now, life. Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
My health.
Yeah.
I think without your health, you have nothing. I mean, obviously I'm thankful for my family and I'm thankful for, all your loved ones and stuff, but your health should be your number one. If you don't have your health, you can't be thankful for the people around you. You can't be thankful for anything else.
I totally agree. Health is everything, right? That's it.
Health is everything. Yeah.
Who is your hero?
That's a hard one, eh?
This one's
Erica.
Yeah, I had a feeling you might say her. I have a feeling a lot of people might say her because this is just, okay, so to wrap it up, how can we know ericaswish.com? That's where you go to sign up. I'm sure you can learn more about her story and what's going on. What about if people want to connect with Sue, if they need some help with social media, they have questions, what's the best way? Where can they reach you?
They can go on Instagram at Socially Sue. They can go to sociallysue.com. It's funny, when I picked that name, it was available and I was like, come on, Socially Sue, really? That's available? Ask me how many people actually just call me Sue now. Everybody's like, oh, Socially Sue's here.
Really? Oh, that's great. But that's just, it flows. It
rhymes, right? I know.
Yeah, it sounds so good. I can't believe that was available. That's huge.
I know, it's crazy. So sociallysue.com has all my info. Instagram, Facebook, I'm on all of them.
Socially Sue. I love that. And I'm willing to bet everybody that hears this will never forget that, because I know I will. I didn't even know, before we joked around, I didn't even know your last name because I just had Socially Sue in my head.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Sociallysue.com. Everybody listening or watching, you have until August 14th to sign up. ericaswish.com. Sue, this has been amazing. You know what's one of my favorite parts of this is you yourself are just an incredible person. We got a chance to spend a lot of time with Thomas this year. I think you're even more amazing because you want to help out this Erica's Wish, and it's not about you, it's about her, and it's about that community. So to see how selfless you are, I think is an amazingly awesome trait. And
you're gonna make me cry again.
Well, it's the truth. It's so true. I mean, a lot of times I'm talking about the individual, which we did that, but we also, you're about, helping others, and it's a powerful thing. So I appreciate it. Yeah, it's.
Well, thank you.
And I hope we get
and as are you.
Well, I'm trying. I hope we get a ton of people signed up virtually, 1K, 5K. We're going to link all this stuff in the show notes, and
awesome.
Go sign up. This is going to be huge, and it's going to be awesome for Erica.
Yes.
Well, thanks for joining, Sue. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.